Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. How are you, everybody? This is Abbas Barzegar coming to you to host the Daily Dose COVID Conversations with CAIR. It's a real pleasure to be hosting today, mainly because I've been involved in the operation of this show for the last month, and it's been really exciting. But now I'm coming behind the fourth wall and coming to you directly. So it's really exciting to be on this side of the screen. Thank you to everybody at CAIR and the Department of Communications, Ayana Jean, for making this possible, and for everybody's effort to join us. So today we've got a great show lined up for you. We have to take on a pretty serious conversation today. We're discussing love and hate during Ramadan. And what we're talking about are basically the rising rates, it seems, of hate crimes and harassment activity taking place against Muslims during the month of Ramadan, especially now during the coronavirus season. And also some acts of charity, kindness, and love that some of our Muslim organizations are also engaging in during this time. So love and hate during Ramadan. And to start this conversation, I've got my dear brother and partner in crime over here, Gadir Abbas, who after 2 years at CAIR, people still send me his emails, right? Where people call me for legal advice, and I happily give it to them. I'm joking, I'm totally joking, totally joking. How are you, Gadir?
I'm doing well. Jazakallah khair for having me. I'm looking forward to. Abbas has a great, wonderful first name, and I have Gadir Abbas, a great and wonderful last name. So together, it should
Amazing.
make.
No, amazing. You know what Abbas actually means, Gadir? Just
tell me.
So folks know, the verse in the Quran, Abasa wa tawalla, right? Abasa wa tawalla. He turned and he frowned. So Abasa is to frown. Our name literally means the one who scowls, Abbas, right? So it's an emphatic form of the Arabic where you have a alif in there. It's like, Ghafar, like it's the one who does the thing. Abbas is the one who scowls. And I have to say that your headshot on the flyer, that's a pretty nice shot, man. You're very scowly in that shot. So,
you can't, the scowls are few and far between. It's usually smiles and Jolly Ranchers.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's much rare because you're always smiling, but you're scowling in the picture. And I'm always scowling, but I'm smiling in that picture. So,
smiling now.
All right, we should probably get on topic. We should probably start talking about what's going on. We do have to start out the day with a little bit of bad news. And we're talking about today a case where there was a hate crime that took place at a mosque. And we're going to get into a discussion about what happened on the details. But before we even get into that, there's some confusion. And this is why we have you on today, Gadir, is to help us walk through the kind of legal framework of what constitutes a hate crime. There seems to be some confusion, especially amongst police departments and others, about what a hate crime is, but it's not as straightforward as it might seem. And so why don't I just start there? Just elementary, question. What is a hate crime and what constitutes a hate crime?
Yeah, well, a hate crime consists of two parts. You have, one, there needs to be a crime that's committed, murder, arson, theft, vandalism, battery, assault, death threat, etc. Something that's generally a crime.
Already a crime. Okay.
Yep. Plus a biased motive. A biased motive being, the reason that the person committed the murder was because of the person's religion. The reason the mosque was vandalized was not because they were stupid teenagers, out on Halloween, but because the masjid was, belonged to Muslims. And so those are the two pieces of a crime. And sometimes what we find in how police departments approach hate crime prosecutions is, on one hand, because the Muslim community is really just beginning its political engagement in a serious, substantial way, a lot of times these local elected prosecutors are not pressured to take on the extra effort that it takes to investigate things as a hate crime. Investigating a crime, which usually is very tangible, results in things that you can see and feel, is easier than investigating motives, which generally involve, looking at their backgrounds, looking at things that they've posted online. And so, that's what a hate crime is. And, the past couple of years, what we've seen is a steady, generally speaking, Abbas, hate crimes spike in presidential election years. We've seen that, for a number of cycles. But generally speaking, they go down after it. But, in the 2016 election cycle, the hate crimes have plateaued, in both the last 2 years that the FBI has reported hate crimes, they've stayed essentially the same, above
I see.
7.
I see. And so I just want to reiterate this for everybody. So a hate crime basically has to determine that there was bias or discriminatory kind of intent in executing the crime. So it wasn't just breaking and entering, it wasn't just assault. It was assault because the person was of a particular background. Now, what counts as a category of like a protected class or something that would fall into it? Because it's not a hate crime if somebody punches you because they don't like the Yankees and you're wearing a Yankees hat and I hate Yankees fans and they punch you. That's not a hate crime. So what's the difference there?
Yeah. So generally speaking, and there are variations, state to state. There are some states right now that still don't have hate crime laws at all. But among the states that do have hate crime laws, as well as the few hate crime statutes at the federal level, generally speaking, race, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, as well as gender are the protected categories.
I see.
And so, you can't tackle somebody because they're from Algeria. You can't vandalize someone's home because they're Muslim. You can't steal someone's car because they're a woman. Those are the protected categories. And generally speaking, it's characteristics that are not easily changeable, right? Yankees fans can become Mets fans depending on the performance.
We're gonna have to edit that out. Obviously, that's we don't want to get the Yankees fans upset here. But I see what you're saying. They're not necessarily immutable characteristics, but they're things that are hard to change. So, like your religion isn't an immutable characteristic, but it's something that you're kind of, like. People are going to call you a Muslim no matter, if like we get hate crimes against Christians reported a lot, like Christian people from the Middle East, right? Like Christian folks from the Middle East will get attacked because they're just thought to be Muslim. So that's probably an example. That actually helps me. It's not necessarily immutable characteristics, but something that approaches that. And so because people have to investigate this area of intent, that's a little bit harder. It's a different kind of police investigation. And that's probably why we don't get the rates of hate crime prosecutions that we would expect to see in a year. Or a lot of times, like we get disappointed. Like there's a case that we think obviously a hate crime, and then there are not hate crime charges brought against the person. And so that's why that happens.
Yeah, and I think that it has to do with the nature of a hate crime itself. The hate crime is intended to intimidate not only the person who's the victim, but the community that they belong to. And so, we see it, all the time at CAIR, a victim of a very serious hate crime, someone, I remember from a couple of years ago, was driving a Muslim sister, was just driving down the street. Someone exited their car and started slashing at her car with a knife. That wasn't prosecuted as a hate crime, and she wasn't really willing to publicly challenge, the local prosecutor, and so that went, undercharged and under.
I see. No, thank you, and we'll maybe get into a little bit more of those specifics of like where it pans out, where it doesn't, with our next guest. And so, if we could, thank you back, obviously, Gadir, for that background. But I'm excited to hear a little bit about the details here as you talk to Yasir Ali from Missouri here. So, could we bring Yasir Ali onto the screen from CAIR-Missouri? Assalamu alaikum, brother Yasir. How are you?
Walaikum assalam. Good. How are you on there, bud?
I'm doing well. Everybody, all of our viewers and Gadir, I'd like to introduce you to Yasir Ali, who's coming to us as the chairman of the board of CAIR-Missouri, who's been a resident of out there for about, or you're in St. Louis, is that the St. Louis area?
Correct.
In the St. Louis area for a little over 5-6 years, and you have a background in software engineering, from what I understand. I appreciate you for your service, obviously to the CAIR community and the CAIR family, but also for spending some time with us this afternoon out of your workday during the month of Ramadan to discuss with us. So for those of us who have not read the headlines and who have not heard the news about what happened this last week, could you go ahead and provide some details about what transpired at the local masjid there?
Sure. No, thank you for having me as well. So the first of Ramadan in the morning actually was really close to suhoor time, almost suhoor time. The masjid, there's a town called Cape Girardeau. It's about 2 hours south of St. Louis. And it's a very small community. And somebody started a fire there. And this is actually on CC camera, so we have recording all that available. What was good and unfortunate at the same time, this masjid was built, that was a mosque, and a small mosque was built out, I think in the late 90s. They actually bought a building, and the way the building was, they actually had apartments on top of them. They had 4 apartments on top of there where Muslims were actually living. So what the masjid was doing is kind of helping out some of the students or some of the people who just were looking for a temporary place to stay. So because it was Ramadan and people were awake for suhoor, people actually heard this loud noise, what was going on. And luckily they acted quickly and kind of ran outside and saw the building on fire. So that was sort of the start of it. So a good thing and a bad thing in a sense. A good thing, people are awake, people were there, they've heard it, and they ran away. The bad thing is that this thing happened in the first of the Ramadan. Fast forward, so the CAIR-Missouri team went out there, talked to the community leaders over there, and trying to assess what was happening. The FBI agents were there as well, and this was this past Sunday. At that time, nothing has been. It was still an ongoing investigation, so that was my first time dealing with FBI, and the classic canned answer we got: cannot give you any information. It's under investigation.
I got you. Oh, just one second. We'd like to show some images actually of the fire and of the damage that was done. If we could pull those on screen. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So this is a fan. If you see, this is just all melted or bent down. So you see a lot of.
So the whole structure really burnt. There was some preliminary reports that this was just like a small blaze that was on the front door or something, but it looks like this was actually quite extensive damage.
Yeah, it started on the front door. That's where it started, and actually I shared with Brother Ibrahim the CC footage. But no, it spread, and a lot of it was smoke. Some of it was smoke damage, but a lot of it was this damage actually. So this is actually burnt. Some of this actually burnt.
It's terrible. It's terrible, actually.
So what the community's response to what the FBI's been saying, and what role did?
So the community was very. Overall, the Islamic community, the Muslim community there was very supportive of the law enforcement because they were pretty active. They were working with them. The rest of the other religious organization also came together to condemn this. However, what's going on right now, so he has been charged. And again, thank you for explaining the hate crime, and I may misuse the word, but I think he is being charged with hate crime, but at the state level and not at the federal level at this point. And I don't know what the implications of that are at this point, but we as an organization, I've been in touch with some of the national leadership as well to guide us in this, to pursue the federal charges as well. But the overall, to answer your question, the community as well is coming together. They are supportive. There are other organizations that are backing the Muslim community there. It's a pretty old established community there from the Muslims has been there for the past 30 years. And the masjid was established, I believe, in the late 90s. And they have good relationships with the law enforcement and with other churches and things like that. So the community is condemning this.
That's a really important point to put out there, is that these relationships with law enforcement are necessary in times like this. And so it is good in general to have some level of relationships. But Gadir, maybe you could help us out here. There are some members of our community with absolute right cause. We're very suspicious of engaging with law enforcement at various levels, and we ourselves clarify this. And so maybe you could provide a little bit of insight there on, how should we be engaging law enforcement, which kinds of law enforcement, a mall security guard is much different than an ICE agent, right? So, how can we walk through that responsibly at a time like this?
Yeah, well, the folks at the FBI, the folks at the state level that investigate hate crimes, they do good work. The FBI has been investigating hate crimes in a serious way, since the 60s, after rights era statutes passed that gave the federal government some more authority to investigate and prosecute different kinds of bias motivated incidents. But that engagement with law enforcement should be informed by the experience of our community, and it's always a good idea to have a lawyer just participate in that process of engagement to make sure that what begins as an appropriate exercise of law enforcement functions to investigate, prosecute a hate crime doesn't then spill over into something else. And so it is appropriate, and it does make sense for communities to allow law enforcement to investigate hate crimes, but to do so in a way that is informed by legal advice, where lawyers are involved to make sure that what's happening is appropriate. And in my experience, when law enforcement does get involved in hate crimes, it tends to be appropriate and proper the steps that they take.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. So just to reiterate, there should be no hesitancy, especially at times like this. If somebody is harassed, if there's property damage, or they just shot, God forbid, a kind of an attack on a mosque like this, we should go to law enforcement. We're taxpayers. We should engage, but we should do so responsibly. No, and I think it's a very important message that it's not an all or nothing kind of equation. So, back to Brother Yasir for just a second. Do we know anything about the perpetrator here, about the culprit who set this fire? Is there any history with this person? Normally, these things don't just happen out of the blue.
That's a good question. So he does. And this is just looking up, searching his name. In 2005, he actually vandalized a masjid in Dearborn, Michigan. Then back in 2009, he actually vandalized the same masjid in Cape Girardeau, breaking the window that had a glass window that he broke. And at that point, the community and him was like, I was drunk, I did this while I was drunk and things like that, so the community let it go. This time, however, he actually talked about intent. He actually did say he vandalized, not vandalized, he burned it because of the people who worshipped at this place. So there is clear intent, and it was in the news articles that were coming out about when he got arrested. So he definitely had history. What we don't know at this point is, has he been doing on his own, or is he part of a bigger organization that is still out to be figured out? But yeah, unfortunately, there is history with this person.
Well, we know that people don't wake up. A child isn't born with hatred, right? And people are not blank slates, and people do not just wake up with hate in their hearts. And obviously, wherever he was getting his ideas from, and whatever he was getting in terms of the hatred and ideology that was pushing him, we'll be able to find it, inshallah. We'll be able to find some of that. Any final questions, Gadir, that you might have for Yasir?
Well, this happening during Ramadan, how is the community processing it? I mean, how is it affecting, Ramadan for the community that they're having this hate crime happen to their masjid?
So it's a compounded question and compounded answer, right? It's compounded, one, it's not a normal Ramadan anyone has ever seen. So it's, compounded with COVID-19 and then this happening. So there's a lot to process there for the community itself. But generally speaking, they obviously, in great shock. This is their only place of worship, and I'm talking about Cape Girardeau's locally. And they're coping with it. It's another thing that they have to rebuild now. So that's a big part of their mind. Now, what the bigger thing to talk about is how does it impact at a larger level, right? Is this just a glimpse of, God forbid, that we're going to see? So this has been alarming to other communities as well. Okay, what is happening in St. Louis, for example? What will happen to the massages here? There's already, big massages that have their own security. What about small massages like the Cape Girardeau? They don't have, they didn't have any security because they believed in the people in the community that they lived in.
Yeah,
So
of
they
course.
are worried.
Are there any fundraising efforts, or is there a platform that we can help promote to raise money and to provide support to the local community there?
Yes, and thank you for that question. So there is, and I will take a note to share that on CAIR National, but on CAIR-Missouri's Facebook page, there is a post where there's a couple of funding, GoFundMe and Launch Good. They're both going in parallel for this.
Okay.
Are looking for about $1 million to rebuild this thing. A lot of people are asking how much was the damage. So it's not about how much the damage was. It's what it'll take to rebuild it now.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Okay, so Launch Good and GoFundMe, Cape Girardeau Mosque, CAIR-Missouri, these are all places that we can go to find and fund. And so, inshallah, maybe I could ask the producers to maybe find a link to that Launch Good page so that we could pull it up by the end of the show, inshallah. Brother Yasir, thank you very much again for your time, for your service, and for your dedication to these issues. We'll be back in touch real shortly. I'm watching the case closely. Gadir's watching the case closely. And so we'll be back in touch with you. Jazakallah khair for your time again.
Jazakallah khair for having me. Thanks.
So our next guest, on the note of sort of how do we do good in this kind of time? How do we respond to these kinds of issues? A phrase says it's not so much how what you endure, but how you endure it. And so it's as bad as the situation is in Missouri, it brings coolness to our heart that the communities are working together, banding together, and that we're already forming a legitimate response across faith communities, across law enforcement, et cetera. And so on that note of response and how we can contribute, I'd like to welcome our next guest to the show. And this is a brother Rafi Ahmed, who is the president of the Muslim Association of Virginia and also the chairman of the Virginia Council of Muslim Organizations. Assalamu alaikum, brother Rafi. How are you?
Wa alaikum assalam. Alhamdulillah. How is everyone doing today?
We're doing well. We're doing well. I should say that the Muslim Association of Virginia is also the Al-Noor Islamic Community Center. Is that correct? Did I get that right?
That is correct.
Okay. Jazakallah khair for being on today. You're joined with our beloved brother Gadir Abbas from Chicago, but also with the national office here. Brother Rafi, how are you doing? How's the community? How's everything going, both in Corona and in Ramadan times?
Alhamdulillah, the spirits are strong. The community, we're staying engaged with our community by doing a lot of our programs virtually. And some of the programs that we have rolled out during this Ramadan, we are getting a full engagement from our community, and they're really very, very excited. They want to be able to come and attend their masjid, but they are concerned for their health as well. So alhamdulillah, it's been a very positive response.
Alhamdulillah. Tell us a little bit about Al-Noor Islamic Community Center. What is about the size of the mosque? How long have you guys been around? What kind of things do you do on a normal, non-Ramadan, non-Corona time?
So the Al-Noor Islamic Community Center, the parent organization in Muslim Association of Virginia, which was established in 1989. The Al-Noor Islamic Community Center was built, and grand opening was in 2007. We are the largest Islamic center here in Prince William County. We serve approximately about 2,500 families. So
Mashallah.
it's a pretty good size and a very active community, alhamdulillah.
That's good. That's good to hear.
Yeah, so these days, you know, you told us a little bit about some of the Ramadan-related virtual services. Is Al-Noor, are you engaging, providing any services regarding the coronavirus and the community's needs regarding it?
Yes. So, you know, Virginia governor declared state of emergency in March 2012. I mean, 2020, March 12, 2020. And basically, they started out by putting a limit of about no more than 200 people gathering in any event. So when the governor declared a state of emergency, what the Virginia Council Muslim Organization did, that we facilitated a Zoom meeting, and we brought in the imam and medical experts to discuss the concerns of coronavirus. And due to that, majority of the masajid, some of them closed immediately. Our masjid was shut down on March 12th. And some of the other masajid, they closed like a week later and stuff. But majority of the masajid are not, they're closed because due to the concern and the safety of our congregants. Now, we are, we are hurting just like any other masjid. You know, because our lifeline is Jummah prayers and the collections that we do during that time, and the collections that we make during the month of Ramadan, from zakat to, you know, donations, and we're trying to expand our masjid as well. So our expansion funds, they've all been seized basically. Now, you know, our funding has stopped, but our organization, we decided that we need to provide for our community when they need us the most, which is these times. Because we have many members in our community who depend on daily wages, and they're being affected, right? So we are providing financial help to those who are in need. We are also distributing food twice a month, every second Sunday of the month. And each time that we do a food distribution, we are distributing to about 100 families, you know. And during the month of Ramadan, we started serving hot meals around 6:30 to 7:30, right before iftar. And so every night we're serving about 350 meals.
How do you do that? What does that look like? We're not supposed to be, not supposed to be hanging out. So what does that look like?
So we have, a limitation of no more than 10 people in a masjid. So we have crews. So we have our crews who comes in and then makes the meals. Then they leave. And then we have a crew that comes in to package the food. And then we have a crew that comes in and distributes the food. So we have a drive-through only. Okay.
Oh, I see.
So we set everything up outside in the parking lot, and we have instructed the recipients not to get out of their vehicles. And so our volunteers are wearing KN95 masks, and they have shields, and they're wearing gloves. And so we do, we ask them to open up their trunk or back door, and we put the food in their car, and they drive off.
Oh, amazing, amazing.
And I want to share some.
Yeah, feel free. I was just going to ask if you have some photos. That'd be wonderful.
Well, I do have photos that I can send to you. I have videos as well. About approximately 50% of the recipients are people of other faith.
Okay.
We have opened it up. We're advertising heavily, and we are saying that it's open to all, not just Muslims. And alhamdulillah, the response has been tremendous. Many of the civic organizations, many of the organizations who work with the homeless people, they have been advertising on their websites, on their Facebook pages and stuff. And we are getting lots and lots of positive comments. Some of the donors for this iftar programs are people of other faith who are donating to us as well. Okay. And our sisters in our community, they're also making some masks. They're sewing masks. which
Okay.
we're advertising to everyone. One lady came in and she wanted 50 masks that we have sewed. She wanted to take it to a elderly, house, senior citizen home. And so one of our local hospital also contacted us, and they need some masks, which they are going to give to those patients who are being sent home, and they may not have any masks, so they're utilizing those masks for that purposes. We have people of all faith coming in asking for, food, masks, and hot meals. So alhamdulillah, response has been great.
Now, Brother Rafi, sorry if I could jump in there for a quick second. These times are kind of chaotic, and it's hard to, it's hard, mashallah, to even organize these type of things. But when you're telling me that the civic associations and the local, medical centers and whatnot are getting in touch with you, it leads me to believe that you guys already had good relationships in the communities that you were in. Is that the case?
Yes, alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
We are very active in the civic arena. We have very good relationship with our elected officials. Brother Qadir knows, alhamdulillah. So this is something that we have been working on for years. And alhamdulillah, we recently had a Zoom call with the governor of Virginia and the Muslim leadership. He wished everyone happy Ramadan.
Amazing.
And then we used that opportunity to educate the governor of Virginia as to what each masjid is doing. We shared figures, how many meals we have served in all the masajids in Virginia. So alhamdulillah, we avail every opportunity that we can get to educate our neighbors what Islam is. What we are doing is Islam in action, right? Many times we talk about that Islam means peace. Islam says to take care of your neighbors. But how often do we really go out and reach out to our neighbor and ask them, hey, how are you doing? Do you need any help during these difficult times? So we're letting our actions speak for Islam. We're tired of just saying that Islam means peace. Islam means this. We need to show our neighbors by our actions. And this is what we're doing here in Muslim Association, Virginia.
That's excellent. Barakallah fikum. Honestly, Brother Rafi, we'd love to be able to tell that story more. If you have those statistics lined up, or if you have any notes or slides that you guys shared with the governor, please send them over to me, and we'll write up an article for our new website called CAIR-Newsroom.com. And what we're doing is trying to highlight, especially during the COVID period, responses that our community is doing, share resources, share ideas. So if you have any of that information, it'd be wonderful. We'd love to be able to.
Inshallah. And one fact, I'll tell you, even the Democratic and Republican sites are sharing our videos and our ads and asking people to donate to us. And they're encouraging people to go and take advantage of the services that we're providing. It's not just one, segment of the, our community. Everyone, alhamdulillah, speaking very well. Yesterday, there was a county board of supervisors meeting, and I zoomed in, and I spoke about these facts. And all the people who are watching the county board of supervisors meeting got to hear what Muslim community is doing. Alhamdulillah.
That's
Alhamdulillah.
great.
That's not, that doesn't just happen. Rafi is everywhere all the time, in every place, on every call, every meeting. And alhamdulillah, I've gotten a chance to go to Al-Noor for many on occasion. A strong, vibrant community among the most well-organized masjids in the country, a model country.
That's great to hear. Remind the viewers what county, what city you're located in.
We are located in Prince William County, Virginia.
Prince William County,
Manassas, Virginia. Yes.
Manassas, Virginia. Okay. Yes. Excellent. Well, it cools my heart to hear what you said about so many different people responding to the Muslim efforts and Muslims being able to reach everybody, because at the heart of our mission and our identity and our deen is that we're a mercy to mankind, right? Is that our community is a mercy and a blessing to mankind from our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I'm very excited to hear that so many people are benefiting from that. We do normally close the show with asking our guests one question, and that is, Brother Rafi, if I gave you a billboard on a major highway, you know, let's say 95 over there in the DMV, if I gave you a billboard and you just had a few words to send to the whole world, what would your message be?
One race,
Mashallah.
only one race, and that's the human race. That's all matters.
Mashallah, mashallah. I love it. I love it. Jazakallah khair, Brother Rafi. We'll be in touch. I'm going to chase you down for some of those statistics. Brother Gadir, do you have anything else for Brother Rafi?
No, Jazakallah khair, Rafi, for joining. It's good to see you on the Daily Dose.
Okay, thank you. Gadir, thank you again for joining me today. I wanted to pull up the Launch Good campaign for the masjid in St. Gerard, Missouri. So if the producers could pull that up for just a second. St. Gerardo. Oh, man, the French stuff. When I first heard this, I thought it was like somewhere in Canada or something. You know what I mean? So for all of our viewers, please make sure that you visit this site, and also so this is the GoFundMe site. We also have the Launch Good site, but Cape Girardeau for a fundraiser to repair damage done to the masjid and to rebuild the Islamic Center there. They're going to need approximately $1 million to get through this. But alhamdulillah, we have a massively generous community, and one heart does not stop pumping. So inshallah, we'll get there. Brother Gadir, thank you very much again. Any last notes to our viewers and our guests?
Ramadan Kareem to everybody watching, and inshallah, we'll see you soon.
Inshallah, we'll see you soon, Gadir. Thank you very much. And to all of our viewers, thank you again for joining us. A reminder, the Daily Dose COVID Conversations with CAIR is happening now during Ramadan, 3 p.m. daily. We cover various topics, but most importantly, information that's relevant for you in our community, as well as for others watching on during this time. We have information from medical experts, from legal experts, and we also like to highlight some of the great stories and not so great stories that are happening to Muslims around the country. So 3 p.m. daily, Daily Dose, COVID Conversations with CAIR. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.